the World Storytelling Cafe, and it is Sunday, and it's the other Sunday that's not every other Sunday. Therefore, it is not the worldwide story round. It is, in fact, a special Sunday, a special because we are doing a book launch tonight, or today, or this afternoon in Ali's case, in Baba C's case. So, and it's a book I followed the progress of. From the joy of being accepted by a publisher, and then the that interminable wait for it to arrive, which all writers go through, and and then with great joy and jubilation, the other day, copies arrived, and my copy arrived in the post. I show you this just to prove it exists in 3 dimensions, and and it is available. Before we start, because people always ask where you can get it from, you get it direct from the publisher. I put that in the chat. If you're not on the chat, it's www.austinmacaulay.com/book/outside-looking. You won't have remembered that, but it's worth. But just go and hello, Emma. Good to see you.
Hi.
Fantastic.
John, you might want to put it back in the chat because I don't see it in the chat.
Well, it's only in the. Oh, it's to everyone. Oh, maybe I've done my usual bit of not hitting. Oh, goodness gracious me! I've hit something else now. There we go. Always in the chat, I forget to press enter. It's in the chats now. So, without further ado, I am going to introduce Clare Smith. Clare, welcome to World Storytelling Cafe.
John, thank you so much. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. And I think you were far too modest in your introduction. You didn't just simply watch the book through its 2 years nearly of gestation, or 1.5 years of gestation. It's your fault that the books happened at all. It was working with John that gave me the courage to submit my work to a publisher. And this was no small thing to overcome. After all, this book has been 66 years in the gestation. I first started writing some of the poems that are in it when I was 18, and I'm now 64. And several of the poems in it have grown out of the poetry workshop that John and a small group of friends that John has led for us. We call ourselves East Coast Poets. We've all gone off in different directions. This was my choice. Now, I don't know how John normally runs these sort of events, but what I would really like to do, I hope that the work speaks for itself. Now, John and Emma and people from East Coast Poets have already heard some of these poems. I hope you'll bear with me. I'd like to read 1 or 2 of them, maybe 2 or 3 of them, and then people can talk to me, ask me questions about them, or whatever way you want to run the session, John. Is that okay? Does that sound like a plan?
That sounds a perfect plan.
Great.
So read for as long as you like, then we'll chat, and then we'll have some more poems.
Okay.
And I'll keep an eye out just to let people in. Ali will keep an eye out to let people in. That's us at the picture behind Ali now is us all at the Marrakesh International Storytelling Festival. We're not talking about that tonight. We're talking about Clare's book. Could we have some poems, please?
Okay. Well, the first poem I want to read for you. You have to remember, I'm living in Norfolk, which is the small bump on the east coast of England. And like most of the world, we've spent most of the last 2 years in lockdown. This poem, Estuary, was written about a local place and about how the first lockdown went for many of us. Estuary. January, February, estuary walk, marching through the bitter months, the cautionary outings through October, balk at November, till no sanctuary lies along the tributary at wells next the sea. the extraordinary beauty of snipe and lapwing, their plumage December gaunt, as they, like us, fight their adversary, the mortuary winter weather. But come the spring, which may bring April sun in fits, as goldfinch flit among fragmentary heather, revolutionary red and luminary yellow, their customary flock outliving the obituary of the sea's savagery. Come the spring, the emissary days of ordinary walks along the estuary, June and July almost in reach, then, as some august visionary, we can believe in summer as some legendary truth, a necessary gift from this estuary, and forgive our momentary drift, so that we too could decide to remember, and in our solitary path walk until September. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. That was me being far too clever. I hope you noticed I included every single month in that. It was an exercise as much as wanting to praise the estuary at Wells next to the sea, which is a real place. I was also trying out some new skills that John had taught me. This next poem, I'll read one more, and then if you say we can have a chat, and then I can read a couple more if you like. It's probably the best way of doing it. So this next one is very different in tone. It came from the heart. Like a lot of people, lockdown produced all sorts of horrors. I didn't cope very well with the first lockdown, but this poem, Unwary, was part of my attempt at trying to come to terms with it and trying to cope with it. I hope it's something that will touch some of you, speak to some of you. This is Unwary. Do not let grief be the only guide you carry. It is needed sometimes for a time, but its eye is poor. It is unable to parry the body blow that laid you low. It is a sorry ship to hide in, dragging through the heaving ocean to some new land. This will be only an island, not your true quarry, and you will need, after a time, to let go again. If you tarry in that empty sand, you may go under. Instead, try again to compass your way ahead with a different map, one that chides and harries you, an adversary until you agree to try again. And by, you may find that you have a new thought, perhaps only one tiny step in the endless waves of grief, but a mark set down as your anchor. You may allow yourself to hope, or if not to hope, to set it anyway, to let it be, so that one day you may, unwary, see that you have made your way home. And that is Unwary. So does anybody want to ask me anything about those two poems, either of those poems?
Before I ask a question, I'd like to compliment you. You have a lovely, you have a wonderful voice. And I know a lot of poets, and unfortunately, a lot of poets should not read their own stuff. You should definitely read your own writings, your own poetry. I mean, and it's great. Even your intros. I've listened to poets whose intros were more interesting than the reading of the actual poetry. But you set the stage. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I would say your words are worth 1,000 pictures. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, I'm bowled over. Thank you very much.
The pleasure is mine.
I may have had a bit of a, you don't know my background or much of my background. I spent some 25, 30 years working for the BBC as a reporter. So if they hadn't managed to teach me anything about how to introduce something, the Brits shouldn't really be paying their license fee. But thank you. I take that praise where I can get it. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Emma, have you got anything to say?
I mean, I have a copy of your book here. It's beautiful. Your words are beautiful, Claire. You're just beautiful. Everything about it. I'm just so proud.
Oh, thank you. And you should be proud, Emma, because as I mentioned about East Coast poets, the half dozen of us who've been working together for the last 18 months, each of you have given me things that I didn't know about poetry. I know I've been writing it all my life, but nobody's ever taught me anything about it. And each week, each of the people in this poetry collective come with completely different skills, different outlooks, different things they want to say. And every week I think, how do they do that? I want to try that. And I'm absolutely convinced that part of the reason my poetry has got better, and I think it has got better, is because of the things all of you have brought to it.
Well, so Claire, if no one's got any questions, could we have a few more poems?
Okay. This one, again, I know John's heard this one before. I make no apologies for it because
Thank you.
there is another side to my personality. I'm not necessarily a nice and lovely person all the time. I can be quite robust, I think. And this one I want to read because last week we had International Women's Day. And this one is called Obituary.
You've frozen, Claire, for the moment, but undoubtedly you will unfreeze.
Right. You let me know. Let me know.
Well, you're going.
I'm going again.
We're working again.
Okay. So this is Obituary. Well, that put me in my place, didn't it? Me and all the others. Not in the kitchen, of course. That would upset the mothers. No, just a 4-word dismissal in half a page. The rank he held on the global stage, this man astride his industry. They praised his bluntness, even his brutality. Faced with his fatherly feeling for his staff, he protected all, even the chaff, especially if they were sent in harm's way. This the writer did not downplay. Well, I turned him down gently to spare his feeling, my ingenue to his older wolf, but I wasn't. Then I was let go, made no connection. But now, 40 years on, and from affection, my husband says, to my astonishment, that of course there was. It was my punishment. So this obituary recites his work in terms curled round one of their own, a man's man in a man's world. For form's sake, they mention his wife, his second and third, but what really happened down the years isn't even blurred. For all of us, the rest of us, they use the Weinstein knife, dismissed in just 4 words, a complex private life. And you can ask as much as you like. I'm not going to tell you who he was. He has family. So, you know, you can't libel the dead, but there you go. So it was very cathartic writing that particular poem. And clearly I haven't done enough of the catharsis because I enjoy reading it. Okay, so a 4th poem? Yes?
Yeah, just carry on. Just carry on, Claire.
Have at it.
You've
okay,
got us,
well, you'll have to stop me when you've had enough.
you've got us in the palm of your hand. Just take advantage of that.
I'll read. Okay, let me see if I can find Tremor Beach, which has a more upbeat tone to it. Now, this is written. I grew up in Northern Ireland, and we used to take our holidays in the Republic of Ireland on the west coast, which is pounded by the Atlantic. But I have some very, very fond memories of summer holidays as a child. I don't know, maybe other people will be able to identify with this. It's called Tramore Beach. We'd lug so much to go to the seaside, and we were a big family, 6 kids, each with buckets and bags, and parents to chide us the half-hour walk to the beach. A deck chair or two, a picnic hamper, towels and swimsuits, plastic sandals and rugs, but by the time we got there, damper from weak Irish sun or wet Irish weather, bugs biting already, and we got to the everlasting sand, we forgot our grousing and threw ourselves down the very last sand dune to the 2-mile strand, out past the hard sand, onto the soft brown, soft edge of the water, where the northern sun sometimes warmed us just enough to cheat us into struggling under tented towels to the home run, the final mad dash into the sea, so sweet, us desperate for the breakers. 12 feet high, salt stinging blistered heels, choking when we went under, splashing and shouting at the very sky, filled to the brim with joy and wonder, and Dad, a non-swimmer, hugging the beach ball, and Mum, also not swimming, but hugging the shallow puddles with the little ones. 10 minutes, 15, and then a squall, and we'd be shivering and sluicing, our callow need to get dry and collapse onto scratchy toweling, to wolf down a dried out, sliced white bread and hard cheese sandwich, and howling with protest at the hard-boiled eggs, then off with a kite, or onto the far end with shrimp nets and spades, bowling before the wind to the rock pools and treasure, or the dune grass with blades to cut you, but gathering the jewels, our buckets awash with crabs and shrimps and unidentifiable things. The parents would beseech us to give them a minute's peace, until we'd limp and grizzle and slowly pad back from boundless Tramore Beach. And that is all my childhoods rolled up into one.
Gave me flashbacks.
Oh, really? You had similar
Yes.
childhood holidays?
Well, yes, and we went to different sorts of beaches. And when we would go to my father's hometown, which is a little small place called Clifton Forge, Virginia, it was so small, my father would say, "You're now entering and you're now leaving Clifton Forge," was on the same billboard. But the beach we used to go to, I didn't discover until years later, was formerly the segregated colored beach. But between the two beaches, it was the more pristine, and the more beautiful and rested beach. So, yes, I've been to all sorts of beaches, and you had me reliving those moments, including as an adult. And the one time I got sunburned.
Of course.
I wear what they call a kufi, and it's knitted, and some of the knitted kufis have large spaces. And at the end of the day, I noticed that there were checkers, dots going across my head. So where there was no space on the kufi, my scalp had gotten sunburned.
And of
I
course,
peeled for 2 days.
if you're talking 50, 60 years ago, they didn't have the sun cream blockers that we have now. I don't remember there being anything effective.
Oh, well, my father used to joke, I said, "I'm going out the tan." He said, "What? Your palm of your hands and the soles of your feet?" Because people didn't associate tanning with black folk.
Yeah, but you can burn, obviously.
Yes. Oh, yes, we can. My mom used to burn. She was a bit fairer in complexion than I, but my mom used to burn if she wasn't careful. But I got sunburn on my head. That was not cool.
Right. Well, I spent 2 years living in Dubai, and I have basically fully cover up 99% of the time. It was such an unforgiving sun, but as a redhead, I can't, I burn even with sunblock, I think. Okay, so I wrote this next poem for my father in 2018. He had Alzheimer's. This is, again, a very change of pace. This is called Man Diminished. A man diminished, reduced from manhood, autonomy stopped, his selfhood rubbed out, piece by agonized piece, incapable now. Even his emotions, pride and nostalgia, amusement and awe, and shame and envy, even boredom and interest, all gone. his he rubbed out as his days creep by, day by helpless day. No memories live within his mind, no mind remains. And yet here he is, we see him. We know what used to move him, what he was, and so we remember for him. His fight for peace and for food for all, yes, but more and better, his roses, his being English, his love for his wife. I thank you. I'm assuming many people will have had to watch something similar in their elderly relatives, and I find it quite difficult to talk about. The poetry does it better for me. But myth 29. I don't want to give you a false impression about my family. It wasn't all sweetness and light. Here's an earlier poem I wrote about it called The Myth. And again, some of you may find you can touch base with this one. The family myth holds all in its headlights, each person and each bond struck in sharp silhouette that could cut if you tried, that could cut if you tried to creep secretly away. The happy family, a bolster heaped up with words, sleep tight, bye-bye, how was your day, love you, each cliche clattering into the vacuum of the myth's blinding light. All the words, words, words buried in beams of this version of the light, that we are a happy family. But I am in the cold, dead center of the headlights and made to see the dark, hard core. So anyone who's got a family worth fighting for, it isn't all sweetness and light. John, are you sure you're happy for me to carry on?
If he's not, I am.
Okay. Well, one thing I haven't touched on yet is, and it's a big thing in the book, and it's a big thing about me, is I'm autistic. I'm what they call a late diagnosed autistic person. I was actually diagnosed with that version of autism called Asperger's, which basically means I don't have a learning disability. But I passed for normal until I was 57. A lot of the things I wrote as a teenager and a young adult, I can see now are facets of autism. This is one I wrote more recently since I was diagnosed, but it is trying to get at a very real sense of what it has felt like all my life to be autistic. And it's called Girl on a Wire. By 6, she understood, had seen the blueprint for life, and in a child's way, had pictured it a wire stretched between invisible points, slicing black through grey. Each step a choice set down just so in terror. For a misstep would lose her into the blind chasm, unheard, and know that she would fall, perhaps forevermore, and certainly unmourned. So she was bound by wrongs and rights, do this and this will follow. But such a fear-filled thinking blights each step. Each footfall rings out hollow, and tendons locked for the exact need tire could spasm at any time and do not flex with the wire. So it pitches at her touch as she climbs to her daily cliff edge choice, her fault, her pyre. I'm sorry.
No. Clare, you've been very polite so far in your poetry. So, now, while you're on that subject, because it kind of you're not always polite when you're talking to people who just ain't got the faintest idea. And,
Yes.
So could you read Plant, which is on page 42, just to
page 42. Okay.
I think we need some of your at least an example
Okay.
of your direct. You've got
I
such a range
swipe.
of poetry. A bit of your
Okay.
directness wouldn't hurt at
Right.
this moment.
This too is about autism. Plant. They use us as a handy trick in movies, the best supporting or even the lead. Cool with a glitch. The anti-hero who doesn't add up. You'd dismiss it as lazy writing, except they mention autism. Oh yes, you think, I get that. They're a music maestro and a maths prodigy. They kill without guilt, incontinent killing. Cold-blooded, but you root for them. It doesn't need to make sense. Ah, bless is enough. They raid us, take a lie and use it to excuse a hollow figure and defective character. So he's violent? So what? He's autistic. So she's rude? Big deal. She's autistic. So they're a polymath. Yeah, they're autistic. And you believe, you get it, you sympathize. Yeah, right. They're a double agent, a plant from your world. But if the actor wore blackface, there'd be riots. So why is this okay? Why do you gobble down the lie? Because autism fills in the gaps for all that's wrong in you. Da, da, da.
That's so powerful, Claire.
Whoa.
Really?
So powerful. Yeah.
Do you think
Now I'm
it's
gonna do it in slow motion.
I like that, Babasi. I know.
John Rowe, does she know me? Because I feel like she's speaking
No.
directly to me.
Really?
When you were when you were talking about your dad, my
Yeah.
mom had dementia, and then I wrote it down in the chat. And her moments of clarity, she used to say, and she would be angry, and she said, "A person has the right to know who they are," you know. And then what you just said now, and when you were talking about blackface, yes, people get upset. You know, there's some people who don't get why blackface is offensive, but you're right. But when they don't see it themselves, it's like, but
The BBC last summer did a program about the history of blackface in the BBC, and it was terrifically honest. It showed how appallingly the BBC had treated the black community in Britain for decades, dismissing all their protesters. Nobody protests. Well, black people didn't count as anybody, so that's why it perpetuated right up into the 80s. I think that we still had something called the Black and White Minstrel Show. But listening to that program brought, when I was in the middle of writing Plant, brought it home to me. I knew I felt uncomfortable about it. I didn't really understand why, but I knew it didn't feel right. But I don't know, I get torn because the point of an actor is so that they can act. So why shouldn't you have an able-bodied or an able
sorry about that
actor acting someone who's disabled? There is a line to be drawn, and I think it's shifting. I think it's moved. 3 generations ago, 4 generations ago, it was considered okay for people to appear in blackface. Nowadays, we're beginning to see a shift with gay characters should have gay people acting them. You shouldn't have a straight actor playing gay. And there is a shift there. I'm hoping that eventually there will become a shift that autistic people are asked to portray autistic characters. But while we continue to be used as, weirdos.
Here in the States, we had a couple of shows, and unfortunately, I don't remember the name of the TV shows right now, but there was one about a lady detective, and her brother was autistic, but he was what we call functionally autistic, and you could see his innocence, and you could also see his struggle to be independent, and it turned out that the actor was indeed autistic.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we've had several actors who are autistic. You think you know each other?
Show I remember because it was kind of obvious that the actor was not acting half
Yes.
the time. And it was a really good show. And I'm trying to think of it. He left home. There was a whole thing about him leaving home and whether he could.
Yes.
Live
Oh, you know the show. Yes.
And he
yes.
went to live with
the owner of the bar.
With in the bar, didn't he?
Right.
There was all that. But
it's the quality of the writing as much as anything that will have made that
exactly.
Whoever wrote it really gets autism.
And the show was interesting. Just as it really got interesting, it was canceled.
Of course.
But it was a great show.
The Hollywood movie that I had in my sights when I was writing this is one called The Accountant. Not Matt Damon, but an actor like that, of his stature, playing an accountant who was painted supposedly as an autistic person, just so that they could have him cold-bloodedly killing people left, right, and center. And, you know, he's a maths prodigy. And so, however, I need to stop. If you want more...
sorry, that was my fault. I asked you.
No, that's all right. I can do a stab.
I just thought it was really important.
Okay.
I thought Bubba C especially would get that because.
Oh yes, most def. In my family, way in the distance, we may have a family connection with a non-African American man called Calendar, who had 5 traveling black they weren't black minstrels, they were blackface minstrel shows, and they traveled between the United States and Great Britain. And I'm trying to find out if indeed we are related. And obviously, no one really wants to acknowledge that we're related to him, but we're delving into that because your tree has both bitter and sweet fruit. You have to take it.
Yeah, you have to take both. Okay, let me give you something that is just as acerbic, but is deeply personal and is not, well, it only glances briefly at autism. It was written in October 2019, and it's called The Dung Beetle. She skittered fatly across the room, her cheap shoes laced with a froth of black ribbon, her malcontent carapace past the bulging calves, graceless in the straining skirt of her workday suit, 3 inches too short, her thighs too evident for comfort. She heaved her tiny ball of dung, its shadow dwarfing her, its skin waiting to be skewered by her ignorance so it could spill its acid stink. She does the bully's bidding, has rutted in their trough so much she doesn't see they scorn her touch. And so for this especial day, she set her ensemble with another confection, a hairpiece, 2 shades adrift, her own dead grey, its artificial splendor snapping at her hair, and barely clipped to her own thin strands, it nodded madly with every word she said, the more askew each time she moved her head. She announced what was best for us, despite what we said. Just like her child, whose genes she denied, she's simply bad. She must have told herself her name was true, that she was a warrior, not just a tunneler or a dweller in dung, for she was the bully's champion. Yes, not a person I like. So I'm not a nice person.
No.
You keep saying that, but
that's called honesty.
Yes, well, I do hope she doesn't realize who she is, because I might be in trouble. You can libel the living.
I got your back. Because it'll take me a while to get there, but I got your back. John, are you sure she doesn't know me? She keeps talking directly to me. Bullies, autism, dementia. I mean, not. I don't have those things, but she's talking directly to me, okay. and I love it.
Well, here's one that I'm sure is right for you, Babasi. It's called. It's about a woman, but you can pretend to be a woman. We'll let you be an honorary woman. It's called Afterimage. And this one is specifically down to John. It's one of the subjects he set us to do one week, and I continued to work on it. I'm really quite proud of it. So thank you for this, John. Afterimage. I remember the bright side of the street, the optimism of job hunting at uni, that first setback set to the back of my mind, a workaround found, and a job finally mine. The Plymouth adventure, knew everything, the pasties, the sea scents, the spring in my step, me, a cub reporter, the elation of covering real stories, even held captive by Lenkovitz, had a bright side, a ticket to new territories. I careered into my stride up north, and it all seemed possible. I could go forth and make a difference. And I'd found love. I was so busy, so secure, I didn't even notice I was on the bright side. Prospects opened, sure and overlapping, climbing onwards and upwards, and mapping my way, my sights still set on the bright side. But now willpower drove my steps, 2 little ones to care and hope for, the world at their feet, scope for the best. So I took my lost sheen, shook off setbacks and pressed on. I faced misfortune as others do, found a new job, a new home as mothers do, set about finding a bright side. Then the diagnosis. The weight of it made me limp, but still I slogged on, scrimping and saving. I gave up the fight to work. It meant more energy, more time to be with my family. And then pandemic. No, none of us got COVID, that's good. But the road I took is set about with walls where nothing shines, no sunlight falls. So on this, my last path, what bright side can I see? What optimism waits? Not changing the world, not health, not work, not wealth, so many knots, so unentangleable. But I remember the bright side of the road, so I can imagine just a future child with hope and expectation in her stride. I wish her well. May she always walk in sunshine and find within herself her very own bright side. Thank you. Thank you, Babasi. I dedicate that one to you. I'm sure you are one of the bright siders.
I can relate to that one also, not as a woman.
Yeah, you would.
But in my travels as an African American, and yeah. John, did you pay her to do this to me? I mean, it's
No.
Okay, but she
Babasi,
keeps hitting me.
Babasi, you met me. You know I don't pay anyone.
Oh, that is true. That is true. That is true.
Oh, he pays in things other than money. He
No,
pays
John is like a
time,
brother to me.
Yeah.
So, but Claire, I have one little contentious bone to pick with you.
Mhm.
I do this with storytellers too. Never apologize for telling the same poem more than once, because poetry, like a good poetry, when told correctly, are good stories, and a good story is worth retelling. So you don't have to apologize for that.
Right.
Yeah, you.
I'd like to say I'm sorry. I
poet.
don't mean to apologize, but
Let's see, I'm a poet at heart. I was part of the poetry renaissance in Washington, D.C. back in 19. And I'm enjoying your poetry. You're invoking all types of flashbacks and memories. And yes, thank you.
have you had enough, John?
I think we could certainly. My vote is for a few more. Emma, what's your vote?
I agree.
more.
Yeah, let's have some more, please. I'm really enjoying this.
Well, rather than going
No,
to...
Babasi's going to have you here all night. You need it.
Okay, Plato's Love then. That'll cheer everybody up. Again, this was an exercise that John set us. It wasn't about Plato. I found that for myself. I'm too old for romantic love was unrequited then, so shove your notion and the reams of words written and sung and sighed about birds and bees and all that guff that love's a gift, is kind, is patient. Yeah, it needs a swift kick up the arse. No, I'm with your man, that Plato, who set out his plan. 3 types: romantic, friendly, not sycophantic, and altruistic. But then he ditched the mystic waffle and somehow switched to common sense. And believe me, please, decides at last it's a mental disease. Oh, good. Somebody laughed. That's brilliant. Oh, I enjoyed that one.
You can tell, definitely.
And it's all true. I read it on the internet, so it must be true. Right. Another one about my father. Could you bear with that? Okay. This one was written, my father died at the end of 2019. Thank God he didn't know about the pandemic. And I wrote this as part of my coming to terms with his death. It's very particular to him, but again, I hope it may have meaning for others as well. It's called A Life. When Alzheimer's began to bite, he wrote his life, a halcyon childhood, a brilliant career, an honest, brave and caring man, all strife dismissed. But among the memories so clear, and more in what he did not say, lie hints a different man betrayed. Raised 2 of 3, he reveals another who died before him, who should have been the second, who died at birth. So, not stillborn, not quite. Did they mourn him? Did he fear he could not fill those shoes that never touched the earth? He said no more, nor of the long shadow thrown by this most brief of lives over his childhood home. He sketched his father, says nothing untoward. You'd take it its face value, except that Kit, who knew the man, had told me he ignored his children, requiring only they submit entire. A martinet, she said, who looked for obedience and nothing more. Is that why he recounts a picture postcard childhood, climbing fells and tickling trout and everything that's good? Is that why he speaks more of his grandfather's deeds, his father unable to meet his children's needs? He says he turned a peerage down because his Quakerism forbade it. But why then tell at all? I think he needed us to know that he had made it. He mentions public figures, a trawl of royals, famous leaders, big names like some Bethlehem providing safety. He wanted to be one of them. And finally, he portrays his love of poetry, of Wordsworth, and the line he loved the most, the still, sad music of humanity. Why did these words speak to him? They raise a ghost, the child within the man, hiding behind his intellect, his prowess, but guiding his efforts to make the world his home, and never quite believing that he was welcome. So that's a portrait of my father.
I love that poem. I love that poem.
Really?
It relates. I just love it.
Thank you.
There's so much to relate to in so many ways, which I ain't even going to talk about. But it just works. It just, I mean, it does what a poem should do, which is touch. You know, it gets to those places where things don't reach.
Okay.
Claire, that poem has almost left me speechless. Almost. And if you know me, you know that's quite a feat. But yeah, again, you're making me recall things and see things. I'm not complaining, but excuse me for my language, but damn girl, you're good. I mean, you're a wonderful
language. Not language. Okay, I think I'm probably going to finish now with one last poem. And I'm not apologizing for it. It's the last poem in the book. Although I left it to the publishers to decide largely on the order, I said I wanted this one as the last one in the book. And it doesn't say so, but it is written to my husband we've been through some tough times in the past 2 years, not just because of my autism, not just because of pandemic, all sorts of other things. And we're still together. And that is no small thing. So I wrote this for him on the 20th December 2020, and it's called Gifted. I owe everything to you, he said, but dragged by the fearful undertow, I thought for an infinite moment he meant the bangs, his stroke, the hateful words we threw, the mutual self-loathing brought low by our lost child and the sideshow of damage inflicted by disability. But no, he meant 2 cats 3 times, 2 allotments, or sometimes even 3, good people who now stand as our kith and kin, the music of John Martin and Hugh Laurie, a house we fixed, 2 houses, 3, wherein to make a home, now snugly by the sea, and 2 bedazzling daughters, 3 people to bring it all together, a family who need and love him and will weather life's storms to keep him safe. His 12, his 6, his 9, his 3, who stand always with him, held close under the dome of his love, and who will always bring him home.
Claire, that's been a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
You know, I mean, it's just amazing. For those that have just sort of popped in on Facebook or one of our many platforms, you can get Claire's book direct from the publishers, Austin Macaulay. Just
or on Amazon.
Or on Amazon, yeah, and it's the book's called Outside Looking In.
Say that again.
Outside Looking In. Ta-da. And the wonderful person who's been reading her own work tonight is Clare Smith. Big round of applause for Clare Smith, I think. That has been amazing, Claire. Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thank you, John,
Claire,
and World Storytelling Cafe for giving me this.
Claire, John has been telling us that we were in for a treat. He underspoke.
Thank you.
I think you are a brilliant poetess or poet, either or.
Poetess.
And you have left me, I know I've talked a lot through this. John will tell you I always talk a lot through this, but you have left me almost speechless more than once today. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I agree, Claire. Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt because my emotions are all over the place now this evening. They've gone up, they've gone down. That last one brought tears to my eyes. It was just, yeah, it's been an incredible evening. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. I know one of the superpowers that a lot of autistic people have is actually recognizing how difficult it is to be a person. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of the things I experience are exactly what everybody else experiences. So if my poetry is able to touch you, I'm really grateful for that. It helps me feel like part of the gang. So thank you all. And John, Babasi, it was lovely to meet you. Emma.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. The pleasure and honor is mine.
Right, well, feel free to buy the book, tell your mates about it, put a review on Amazon about it, you know, whatever. But actually, if you want to see more of the poems, then, you know, it's there for the taking. And
can we use your spot here to plug Emma's Emma is another one of the group, and have gone off in her own direction and started her own open mic in Caister, which is the end of the month, is it?
Yeah, last Thursday of every month in the Centurion pub in Caister-on-Sea in Norfolk.
At 7.
Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
There's only a few people that, and that they won't see it in the chat.
Well, what they can do is log on to Emma's website, the Norfolk Dumpling,
Yes.
which has wonderful poems that are basically long stories. And I bow down in awe to her ability to do that. I can't. She keeps rhyming couplets going for 20 minutes. Wow.
Ooh.
Well,
See,
Emma,
if you put it in the chat,
you,
so Baba C can see it and then go to it. If you put it in the chat.
Thank you
so
very
that's
much.
it. What's that? The Norfolk dumpling.
Norfolk Dumpling, yeah.
I'm putting it in the chat now for you. Bear with.
Oh, you're doing it. That's probably that way. It stands a chance of getting in there.
Otherwise, I'll be looking for Southern dumplings.
No.
No, which is a great dish, and I'm going, but it what? So see, I see it there now. I can pull that. Thank you.
No, thank you for letting me share.
So and Emma, we must give you a show at some point. Yeah. Less of that false modesty. What we got coming up on the cafe? Well, it's Sunday today, isn't it? Therefore, the next thing is Tuesday, which is our Young International Tellers, which is 18 and under. We have children from India, children from Gaza, Nigeria, and anywhere else. That if you know a young person who wants to come on and tell a story or even a poem, send them along. And that's 4:30 UK time, because it doesn't get too late in India for them going to school the next day and so forth. And Israel hasn't turned off Gaza's electricity. So that's Tuesday. Friday is Sarah Lloyd Winder, brilliant storyteller. You met her in Marrakesh, Babasi.
Yes, she's brilliant.
Stories for children. Sunday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, UK. Let's get this right. 3 o'clock in the afternoon UK time is we are doing our first live story round of Moroccan storytellers. So
Wow.
Zuhair's getting a group of young Moroccan storytellers in a story circle in the cafe, in our physical World Storytelling Cafe in Marrakesh. And so that's coming out live on Sunday afternoon, and then at 6 o'clock there's our worldwide story round, hosted by Mike Rust. I think that's what's coming up. At least that's all my memory cells will handle.
Sean, what time did you say the Moroccan storytelling is?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock UK.
PM.
GMT.
Yeah, PM. PM.
Okay.
Even
Emma,
John couldn't manage 3
Emma,
o'clock.
sometimes we do a 10 a.m. For the Australian.
Australian, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, but that means it's 5 a.m. on my side, which means I have to get up at 3 a.m. to go through my morning routine.
Oh my gosh.
So I thought I heard him say 3 a.m. I'm like, what? Okay, 3 p.m. and then again at 6 p.m. Okay.
Yeah. You might understand, Claire, that Babasi has been a great supporter of ours for quite some time now.
It's mutual, because John is largely responsible for me showing up in Marrakesh. John, and whatever discussion he had with my son, because my son turned to me and said, "Baba, you are so going to Marrakesh," and I did.
Wow. That is sounds so exciting.
I tried to corrupt as many people as possible.
He has. But it was joyous.
Ali, thank you for driving the magic carpet as always.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you, Ali. Claire, one more round of applause. Buy the book.
Cool.
Brilliant.
Go and find it out. See you two on Tuesday. You're coming this week, Emma.
I'll be there.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Until the next time, to be continued.
Bye, Ali. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care, Rafiki.